What do you do with Paul Pogba?
I think it's because people know how good he is and what he can bring to the team. And we were talking about it before, me and James, obviously Jamie was a central midfielder. I think that the days have gone of the box-to-box midfielders. I think you are either a defensive midfielder or you're an attacking midfielder. So when you talk about defensive midfield, we've spoken about before your Kantés, your Fernandinhos, your Busquets, your Matic, you know, your top defensive midfielders that hold that team together. But then you talk about your attacking midfielders. Then you talk about your David Silvas, your De Bruynes, your Ozils. The list goes on. You know, we've had some unbelievable box-to-box players within the Premier League in years gone by. Steven Gerrard, Frank Lampard, Yaya Toure was probably one of the last ones of them. But it's changed now, and I just think that Pogba's been asked to do both of them roles. I don't think you can. Unless you've got Kanté and Hazard and you can roll them up into one and create that play, which would probably cost you about £500 million. They don't exist now, so it's a specialist type. Now, you have a player like Paul Pogba. I think you have insurance, excuse me, of two defensive midfielders next to him. What they did at Juventus, give him a licence to go forward. And the thing is, if you're a top team, you know that opposition are going to sit back against you. There's nobody at Manchester United that can break through the opposition midfield like he does. So when he breaks through, we know that he's not afraid to shoot from outside the box. So the next line is the defence. So a centre-back has to come out, a full-back has to come out. All of a sudden, that creates... The knock-on effect is create space for Lukaku, for Sanchez, Lingard, Martial, Rashford, whoever it may be in that position. But if you're playing Pogba deep, he's not going to get beyond the opposition midfield. So not only is that hindering Paul Pogba's performance, but it's hindering Manchester United's goal threat, in my opinion. But you as a midfielder, what do you think is in terms of where he's best?
Well, I find it amazing that we've got to this situation so quickly, because I remember we got sent off against Arsenal. Everyone was then rolling out the stats that Man United can't play without him. And this is, we're talking about people that know the game inside out. And everyone was saying that he's the man, indispensable. What are Man United going to do about him? And now we've got to the stage where he's useless again. And that's what it feels like with Pogba. Yeah. When things are good, he's the best player in the world. No in between. And all of a sudden with him, because of his price tag, he then gets slaughtered. I think the manager's got a big responsibility with him. I think it's his job. You've signed him as a record signing. This is a boy that... Because what we see with Paul Pogba, I don't know, but I obviously speak to people that know him. Everyone expects him to be this big, confident player, you know, everything that goes with Paul Pogba, the outfits, the boots, the emojis, the hashtag. I think deep down, I think he's not the most confident player in the world. He's the sort of player that needs to be loved. Now, taking him off against Tottenham, I don't think was whether he could have took anyone off. But that's not how you're going to get the best out of him. You can see it already. You can see it at Newcastle the weekend. His confidence is really low. Now, I'm not saying you've got to pound him and you've got to put your... But this is a job. Like, I wouldn't see a situation where Pep Guardiola was to do that to him. I think if he was playing at Man City, he would be one of their star performers. I just don't think Jose Mourinho gets the best out of him. I don't feel that he's the sort of manager that's going to help him, bring him on. Now, you're trying to... It almost feels like you're taking him on. Now, this isn't a kid that you're messing around with. This is one of the biggest assets in world football. And he's like, I'm bringing him off, and it's like... And straight away, you're asking for a war now with current players and his power in that dressing room, Paul Pogba. I think Jose Mourinho's got to be very careful. He's a clever guy. I don't see the benefit in trying to upset one of your star players.
There's an expectation, perhaps, that because he is close to a £100 million player, that he should be able to play where Jose Mourinho tells him. Mourinho says he's a midfield player. That's how I see him. And, you know, the sort of add-on to that is that he should be able to play anywhere in midfield, in any midfield position, because he's so expensive. Well, is there also an argument to say, to get the best out of him, you have to give him a specific position and specific instructions? Is that what you were saying, Guardiola, who gets the best out of players? Is that what he does, even with a Kevin De Bruyne, who's clearly very naturally talented? Yeah, well,
I think also the manager, I'm not going to be disrespectful to Jose because of what he's won, but I think he's a manager that probably doesn't suit a De Bruyne or a Pogba, or what I would call, in the nicest possible term, a loose player, somebody that just will go and maybe run out of position. You know, Jose likes players and he likes his team to be structured, pragmatic and hard to beat. But with a Pogba, as much as you're going to have him running into great areas, he might leave the team open. But with Man City at the moment, you don't look at any restrictions on De Bruyne. You know, when he goes forward, I see him pop up on the right wing or the left wing. We watched the game the weekend. He's got licence to thrill. But as I look at Pogba, and I think you've got to play him in a 3. I don't think he's the sort of player that can play in a 2. No. You know, because I don't think many players can play in a 2 down. Early day, we'd have a 4-4-2 and you had to get box to box and get back. But now with so many teams playing with a 3 or a 3-5-2 or whatever way you play, I think it would suit him to play one of 3, where he did, you know, he played in the 3 at Juventus. Look, I think the manager's got to sort this situation out quickly. Find a way to get him back on side. I still think, look, he divides opinion, Paul Pogba. I think he is a great player. I think he's just lost his way at the moment for a couple of games. People might be saying, well, how can he lose his way? He's worth that much money. He should be sorting these problems out himself. He's human. He's having a bad time. He needs to get out of it quickly as well himself.
I think he's one of the best midfield players in the world. But we go back to our previous conversation. Hazard playing as a centre-forward or Hazard playing deeper. There's no comparison between the two. Now, Hazard is a world-class player, but you wouldn't go and play him in that position out and out, would you? Because he does better in this position. That's not to say he can't perform in one position. I'm not saying that Pogba can't perform in a two, but if I'm looking at him and I'm thinking the player I saw at Juventus, the player that I saw that played in a 4-3-3 for Manchester United at Everton, they won 2-0, he got 2 assists. He was unbelievable. He was unplayable. I believe that he's one of the best midfielders in the world, but what you have to do, if you have your best players, play him in the best positions, what suits him. And I think he's phenomenal when he gets into his stride and he's given that licence to go and do that.
In a three with who, though?
Well, sorry, I was going to say, I think Man United have got more problems as Paul Pogba. But I'm looking at it now. How does he shape his team up? You know, by bringing in Sanchez, you are going to be a very, very attacking team, and you're putting a lot of pressure on your defenders and your defensive midfield player for him. Because I don't think that Jose likes to have too many attacking players in his team. I think now he's thinking that Tottenham game was a real eye opener because it was like he threw him out there and said, right, go on and go and play. And they were playing against a team that were much better, had much more structure, much more attacking flair, but also much more organised. And they were outclassed that day. And I'm sure Jose scratches everything. And how do I get the best out of my team? Because I've seen the 2 games since Sanchez has been, you know, the Newcastle game and the game the other day. They're struggling. You know, they've not, and people like Rashford now are not going to be involved. I'm not sure that, as much as Sanchez is going to be a great addition, I think he's going to struggle to find a way of getting all these attacking players into his team because it's not really how Jose likes to set his teams up.